Hey guys, what's up? So I just got home from the methadone clinic where thankfully now I only go twice a month, but I've been on methadone for a few years now. And so today was a particularly unpleasant trip. I fell down the stairs. I've been hurting. I just rolled out of bed and ran over there, and I had to wait in the waiting room for an hour, and then go and do the stupid interview, ask the same stupid questions over and over and over. It feels like torture, and it's a very unpleasant place to be in a methadone clinic. There's a lot of sick people around you. It's just, I hated every second of it, and I was really struggling to contain my displeasure in the moment. But I just kept thinking, everyone's just trying to do their jobs, do their best, just be a fucking grown up, and this is the situation I put myself in. And I can tell you exactly what happened. So, here's the story. So, after my extremely degenerate and debaucherous late teen and early 20 years, I had started putting my life back together. The frontal lobe had finished developing, thank God, in time for me to start improving my life and getting serious about my future. I started taking steps towards that. I enrolled in college. I majored in computer science. I got a fairly normal person job working at a mental health nonprofit at the Community Mental Health Center. And the glow up was quite insane. And I was eating healthy, vegan, gluten-free, crazy. Anyway, during this time of improving my life, I also had taken steps to finally get my driver's license, which living in a city I had just never got, and I'd always put off anything involving lots of steps, documents, and doing treacherous things like going to the DMV. There was one day in March of 2019 where I was set up. My dad was coming over. We were going to have driving lessons, but unfortunately, in the midst of that plan, we got the worst news of my life, that my brother had been killed at the jail he was at, and it shattered all of us. But I still somehow, in the midst of that horror, I found this strength in me. And it was kind of my first experience with spirituality was when we went to go visit or go see my brother's past body. And it I don't know, it felt like I didn't have a spiritual experience, and then I did, and it was extremely confusing for me at the time. But I managed to be strong and to be there for my mom during this horrific time, me and my little brother, and be there for my dad. We just stayed with her, in bed with her for weeks as she was crying, and it was a absolutely horrific time of our lives that never actually ends. You just learn to live with it. So despite going through the hardest time of my life, I managed not to relapse. I stayed strong. I didn't turn to drugs, and I'm very grateful that, I was able to keep it together. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep it together for that long. And it was about a year after, and I had been my approach to sobriety was Cali sober, as now, but I was just avoiding hard drugs, and there wasn't any real plan or boundaries. And this was obviously a recipe for disaster. And by November of 2020, I found myself starting to get addicted to Xanax again. Oh, and I forgot to mention that little thing that happened in 2020 also, the pandemic that shut down the world and isolated me in a way that at first I was like, woohoo, because I love my friends. I love socializing, but I also love when a plan gets canceled. I love an excuse to stay in. I love an excuse to just be home and do my own thing alone. A lot of the times, to my detriment, to the point where I isolate so much, and then it's fuck. I also forgot that it was during the pandemic that me, like many other people, started creating more content online. I started being active on my YouTube channel, and one of my videos got the attention of a larger creator, and we had a debate that got me a lot of positive attention, and my videos were starting to get more views, and I was even making a little money at it, even though for the audiences, I tend to be drawn to, the odd, dark corners of the internet, and that ended up with me on the kill stream in that audience, and also debating grapers. for that reason, I was fairly quickly demonetized. So for the majority of my channel, it was just a hobby. So in late 2020, I'm starting to take Xanax again. I got a little too cocky with my Cali sobriety, and I wanted help, and I wanted to reconnect with the AA people and support from the community. And unfortunately, I turned to the worst person I could have and got the worst result I could have. The absolute opposite result of what I wanted. So, I finally found it. Yeah, this is the message that ruined me and got me reconnected with my ex, Steve. Hey, I didn't know anyone remotely connected to AA anymore. Do you by chance know any in-person meetings are happening with COVID? Because I hated the not in-person meetings. And then he says, I have heard yes and see no. You know of any rooms, friend? I'm homeless as of tomorrow. Are you for real? See, this is how the people get. Fuck, I just lost it. And that started a whirlwind romance, reconnecting with my teenage ex-boyfriend. So I had been also during this time completely celibate and just not dating at all, because I was just focusing on getting my life together. So dating wasn't on the table, and I was fine being single. But, you know, I guess I was getting a little lonely around COVID, so I let him stay with me. So we were living together and dating instantly, and initially he said he was clean. That was a lie. And then he brought in bundles and was doing heroin in front of me, knowing I'm an addict who had been clean for 8 fucking years. 8 fucking years. He knew that, and he knew I reached out to him struggling. It really pisses me off, man. But one night I didn't ask for any, but he offered me a bump of fentanyl. And we knew it was fentanyl because I was with him when he went to pick it up. And it was like the world stopped in that moment in my mind, because I knew it's one of those moments where I'm either gonna fucking die, I'm either gonna fucking get addicted, or nothing's gonna happen. Like, I didn't know what to expect, because I'd just gotten off of being on Suboxone for 8 years. So it was the first time I could even take an opiate again. And I made that choice. I did it because in my mind, I thought, oh, I've kicked heroin. I was cocky. I thought I was too fucking cocky. And boy, have I paid the fucking price now for years. Every day I paid the price. So after a couple months of us both being addicted to fentanyl, increasing amounts, hustling, starting to need like hundreds of dollars a day to support both of our habits, which was mostly coming in for me. And I started doing webcam modeling again. We did it together. We were doing whatever we could to maintain this habit. And in my mind, I actually was enjoying parts of the time in a really degenerate way of we were just being bad. We were just doing drugs all the time, fucking, and just being fucking degenerates. And I think it was the day after the 1-year anniversary, or the 2-year anniversary of my brother's death, that Steve went to rehab and got clean. And I didn't. He went into rehab, got clean, and he found Jesus. He found God, and he came back. His eyes were glowing, and he was one of those people who was a different guy. So night and day, he was so filled with life and all this shit, and he's so degenerate and evil, and everyone is sometimes just very much a mix of both, and it's quite confusing. But it wasn't too long after, when I started making my first attempts at getting clean, that I realized that I was up against something that was very different than the heroin that I kicked in 2013. Also, I was still addicted to Xanax. So I was consuming about, 5 to 6 milligrams of Xanax a day and 1.5 to 3 bundles of fentanyl a day towards the end of it. And that withdrawal, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. When that withdrawal hit of both Xanax and fentanyl, I couldn't do it. It's like being set on fire and pushed in a bucket of ice, drowning and suffocating. And everyone's like, oh, just wait it out. It doesn't feel like you can. It feels just as urgent that you would do anything to make that pain stop. It was around this time that my friends and family really started intervening, which all popped off one day when I had tried to detox at my best friend's house, and it hit like day 2 or 3, and I said, I have to go. But I didn't have my dealer's numbers. They were written down in a diary that was at my house, and she knew that. And they tried to physically stop me from leaving, and I freaked out. So we got in a physical confrontation. I ran out of my friend's house with no shoes. I ran back to my house, and by the time at my house, both my mom and my friends are both pulling up, surrounding my house. I run in the house. We're like fighting over everything, and I get in, I get the diary, and then like Val grabs it and runs. And finally, I run out the back door, and I run behind a church, and I like hid behind the church, and I remembered, I was like, oh, I know how to get the number. I like looked up on like one of my Facebook messages. There was someone I could ask. So I got a number, and I got someone to front me, and I didn't give a fuck. I was broad daylight, middle of the road, just doing fentanyl, snorting it. Like I didn't care. It was the most insane relief, but it was so sick, and I hurt my friends and family so bad that I can never really forgive myself for that. So for 2021 until 2023, I was on and off methadone, in and out of detoxes, and made many attempts to quit, and kind of just accepted my fate as a junkie and was functioning through it. Because I was working in a high-end restaurant, and the pay was really good, so I was pulling in $1,000+ a week there, and then I was doing OnlyFans content and things like that, so I was able to sustain this insane habit. But it was fucking exhausting, and I was gone. The person I am, who's talking to you right now, I was not there. I was spiritually completely dead. I had no desire for anything, no desire for love, friendship, companionship. I've always been a very creative musical person, and I couldn't enjoy music anymore, and I stopped being creative. I stopped my YouTube channel. I just abandoned it without telling anyone. And also, due to being prescribed Seroquel to help with insomnia for some of my attempts when I was trying to detox on my own, I gained a lot of weight. I gained like 50 pounds. I blew up from 130 to, at my highest, I was 179. So after having this kind of like pseudo stable life, I didn't lose the apartment, and I still had the job, and that's how I convinced myself that I had things under control. So when I started showing cracks at the job and people started noticing that something was off, I ended up getting fired, and that cut out the main engine that was fueling my addiction, and I was fucking exhausted. I couldn't fathom the just getting another job, doing all of this over again, keeping this up for years. And one of my excuses not to detox was I couldn't get time off work. So I had no excuse not to try. So I stockpiled as much methadone as I could. And then I tried to take less and less fentanyl each day. I just tried to taper to make it as less intense as possible, but boy, nothing could have prepared me for what happened when the withdrawal really hit. And I think I might need to make that another part of its own, because oh boy, there's a lot happened in that year. So thank you for watching up until this point, and yeah.